The Toilet Rat had a insane interview on Sunday. Well, it was aired on Sunday on Kristen Welker's Meet the Press on NBC. I want to share a little bit of that with you. But first, my sponsor this evening is Paul Ogden. Thank you, Paul. And his message, essential that we keep alive Mike's unique expressions about the dismemberment of our democracy. Please do your part. Whoa. Unique expressions. Well, that's true. Thank you, Paul. I do. I certainly do. I mean, the language that I use, the expletives that I use, the fervor with which those expletives are used, I guess it is. It does amount to unique expressions, doesn't it? Paul Ogden. Thank you, Paul. If you would like to assist in keeping this little old podcast alive, please go to MikeMalloy.com. And if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see a number of different ways you can contribute. You can underwrite this podcast, and I would appreciate whatever assistance you can give to keep us going. It is, I think, it's a critical issue. Paul Ogden, my sponsor this evening. Thank you, Paul. There's so much bullshit came out of the interview with Kristen Welker was broadcast on Sunday on Meet the Press. So much of it was just unmitigated lies, deceptions, misstatements, bullshit, more lies, more misstatements, more deception, and tons more bullshit to render it almost pointless to try to, for me to go through it point by point. Although I do have, thanks to NBC, a point-by-point rebuttal of some of the crap that this crazy bastard said. But let me start, rather than that, let me start with this military parade that Trump insists that he's going to have June 14th. June 14th, which is Flag Day in the United States. Oh, my God. And it's also... surprise, surprise, it's his birthday. Well, anyway, he told Kristen Welker that he plans to hold, several events to celebrate U.S. military victories this year. I'm curious, military victories where? Since World War II. No, seriously. Where? Korea? No, that's still an active engagement that has an armistice in place for the past 60 years or whatever, 70 years. Vietnam? Oh, let's not go there. Anything that was not, absolutely not, an American victory, military victory. Afghanistan? I don't think so. Iraq? Of course not. What military victories is this crazy, ignorant son of a bitch talking about? Well, but the series of events that he says he wants to hold to celebrate U.S. military victories, it includes what he called a big, beautiful military parade in D.C. Big, beautiful. He likes those words, doesn't he? Big, beautiful budget plan, big, beautiful tax cut, big, beautiful military parade. So he told Kristen Welker, quote, "My birthday happens to be on Flag Day. I view all this for Flag Day, not necessarily my birthday. Somebody put it together, but no, I think we're going to do something on June 14th, maybe, or somewhere around there, but I think June 14th is a very important day," end quote. I don't know if you saw in the interview, but just to watch him try to hold a dialogue, especially with a member of the press, or the way he talks in those cabinet meetings. Again, it's like a child that has been infected with rabies or something. What he says makes no sense. The sentences are jumbled and garbled. And when I watch those cabinet meetings, I can only stand so much of it. How about you? When all these different cabinet members, what are there, 20, 25 of them, they all sit there praising this son of a bitch. They can't say anything without including some sort of a praise or stroke for dear leader. It's just so pathetic. Jesus. But back to the parade. This parade that Trump is talking about that will happen. It's not going to be cheap. NBC found out, the defense officials told NBC that the estimated cost could be as high as $50 million. $50 million. And apparently, according to this ignorant son of a bitch, Pete Hegseth, who now runs the Defense Department, I don't know if he made the statement or if one of his underlings did, but NBC was told that defense officials told NBC, I should say, that individual Army units will bear the cost of the parade, which would potentially impact, in other words, take away funds necessary for the training of our soldiers. $45 million to blow smoke up Trump's ass and make him think that he really is Il Duce. Huh? Trump said it would be worth it, though. He told Kristen Welker, he said, quote, peanuts compared to the value of doing it. We have the greatest missiles in the world. We have the greatest submarines in the world. We have the greatest army tanks in the world. We have the greatest weapons in the world, and we're going to celebrate it. End quote. I want to see the part with the submarines in the parade, don't you? I mean, seriously, I'd love to see that. Now, the event, which allegedly, this is the cover under which Trump hides his real motive, which is a narcissistic, masturbatory celebration of his own big beautifulness, I guess. But the event will also mark the 250th birthday of the U.S. Army. And it's expected to include 6,600 soldiers goose-stepping down Pennsylvania Avenue. Well, our people don't goose-step, do they? No, we just march, don't we? And Defense Department officials who are involved in the planning of this monstrosity said it would also feature more than 50 aircraft, 150 military vehicles, which would include wheeled vehicles like the Humvees and trucks, and tracked vehicles like tanks, with those tracks that you see going round 8 or 10 or 15 or whatever wheels. That's going to go down Pennsylvania Avenue. Now, this particular parade that the toilet rat is going to have, he will have his parade. Remember last year, during his last administration, he tried to pull this off. And the so-called guardrails around him, the people who had 8,000 times more common sense and respect for the Constitution than he has, all those people are gone now. But they pointed out to him it would be too much like something that happens in fascist countries where the dear leader is praised with a show of military might. And there's nobody in his current administration who has the sense to tell him this, or who has the ability or the courage to tell him he's full of shit. You don't do this. You don't do this in the United States. You don't have these big-ass military parades unless it's the end of World War II. Maybe then, but you're going to celebrate military victories, you say, and the question should be what, where, when military victories? What are you talking about? Anyway, the toilet rat said that the reason he wants to do this is because, well, he was inspired after he spoke with Emmanuel Macron, the French president, about Victory Day celebrations in Europe commemorating the end of World War II. Toilet rat said he was considering celebrations on separate days to commemorate the end of the two world wars. What the fuck? What is he talking about? He wants to celebrate the end of World War I, the Great War. When was that? 1918? And the extension of that war, which we have misnamed World War II, in 1945, 80 goddamn years ago. Oh, this is one of the results of having a freak like Donald Trump as president, as leader. Trump said he had a conversation with Macron, and he said he told Macron, quote, "We had more to do with winning World War II than any other nation. We don't have a victory day, so we're going to have a victory day for World War I and World War II." End quote. Well, he is, as usual, full of shit up to his beady little eyeballs. Russia had more to do with winning World War II than any other nation. Russia on the Eastern Front. And I think any student of the history of World War II would come to that conclusion. Now, the Russians gave up 20 or 30 million civilian dead, but it was Hitler's rampage into Russia, which took troops away from the Western Front, which allowed the Allies, so-called America, UK, France, Canada, to swoop in while the Russians were devastating the German forces on the Eastern Front. So, as usual, Trump doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. And then he added, quote, if you look at Russia, they celebrate Victory Day. And then he went on, quote, "I think you can have 2 days. This doesn't mean we're going to go out and not work and have a national holiday and all that, because we don't have many of those days left. Eventually our country will become all national holidays." What the fuck? What does that mean? Out of 365 days a year, what do we have? Maybe 15, 20 national holidays, if that? Pretty soon, we'll have all national holidays. Jesus Christ. And then when Kristen Welker tried to get some information out of this jerkwad about these celebrations, the toilet rat pivoted back to talking about Flag Day and didn't get into any specifics. But you can bet that Trump is just all a quiver about the idea of 6,000 troops marching down the street, and tanks and Humvees and cannons and maybe some missiles on trailers and jets flying overhead, screaming over Washington, D.C. Oh, and Trump in a reviewing stand with his fucked up family around him and all his little toadies sitting there with him and looking up at him, gazing at him, and this crazy bitch who runs the Office of Faith or whatever the hell they call it, she can be there talking about how Jesus is in the crowd. Jesus is flying those airplanes, right? Paula White. And maybe she'll stand up and start screaming in tongues like she loves to do, apparently. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. The Progressive Voices Network brings you commercial-free commentary from today's leading progressive radio hosts and pundits, like me, Mike Malloy, 24 hours a day. I'm not your typical old guy from the 80s or the 90s talk radio host, and Progressive Voices is not your typical talk radio network. It's a listener-supported nonprofit with no corporate control whatsoever over our broadcast. So hosts like me, Mike Malloy, are free to rant and scream and carry on about whatever we like. We're often controversial, but we're never boring. Weeknights, 9 p.m. in the East, 6 p.m. in the West on the Progressive Voices Network. Always progressive, always on. I'm Mike Malloy. Keep it lit.